Hello and welcome back to That's Football Podcast, the show where we don't hold back, we don't sugarcoat it, and we absolutely 100% tell you the truth about what's happening in the beautiful game. I'm your host, Mark Goldbridge, and if you're new here, welcome to the family, mate. Smash that subscribe button, hit the bell, and get yourself buckled in, because today's episode is an absolute banger. We've got one of the greatest defenders to ever play the game sitting across from me today. A man who won everything at Liverpool. A man who had a brain for football like no one else. A man I genuinely respect even though he supported the wrong club. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the one, the only, Jamie Carragher. Jamie, welcome back to That's Football Podcast, mate.
Mark, good to be here, lad. Always a pleasure, always good fun, even if you do talk absolute rubbish half the time.
That's fair. Right, let's get into it, because football, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, has gone absolutely mental this summer. Transfers, chaos, rumours, it's non-stop. Let's start from the very beginning. Jamie, let's kick things off with the transfer window. The Premier League window officially opened on June 15th, and already the numbers being thrown around are absolutely ridiculous. We're talking £120 million for individual players. Real Madrid reportedly willing to pay that kind of money to take a player away from a Premier League club. When you see these figures, £120 million, does it still shock you? Or has football just gone completely mad with money?
Look, Mark, I'll be honest with you. Nothing shocks me anymore when it comes to transfer fees. Absolutely nothing. When I was playing, a £30 million player was considered world class. And even then, people were scratching their heads thinking, blimey, is that fella really worth 30 million? But now, £120 million, that's just Tuesday in the modern game, isn't it? But here's what I think people need to understand, and this is important. It's not just about the fee itself. It's about what that fee represents in context. Last summer alone, Premier League clubs spent over £3 billion on transfers. £3 billion, Mark. That's a record. And this summer is shaping up to be just as crazy, if not crazier. The financial power in English football right now is extraordinary. And when you've got clubs generating that kind of revenue through the Premier League TV deals, through commercial partnerships, through their global fan base, these numbers, as mad as they sound, are almost inevitable. The real question I always ask is that too much money? Because in the modern game, honestly, there's no such thing as too much anymore. The real question is that player going to improve your team? Is he worth the wage demands that come with a £120 million transfer? Because the fee is one thing, it's the wages, the agent fees, the add-ons, the whole package. That's where clubs can really get burned. And we've seen plenty of clubs get burned, haven't we?
Absolutely, and we've seen Liverpool get burned this past season, spending over £550 million and still finishing fifth. But we'll come back to that, because the biggest story in football right now, and I genuinely cannot believe this is happening, is what's going on with Virgil van Dijk. Jamie, Virgil van Dijk, Liverpool captain, one of the greatest centre-backs in Premier League history. I'll give you that. He's been absolutely phenomenal. But there are now serious reports, not just whispers, serious reports coming out of Turkey that Galatasaray are preparing an official offer to sign him. Van Dijk has apparently given his agent the authorization to hold talks. And here's the kicker, they want him for free. On top of all of that, Liverpool have already lost Salah, Robertson and Konate this summer. Jamie, what on earth is going on at Anfield?
Right, so this is a topic that genuinely upsets me a little bit, Mark, if I'm being completely honest with you. Because Virgil van Dijk isn't just a footballer. He's been one of the most transformative signings in Liverpool's history. When he arrived in January 2018 for £75 million, which felt like a fortune at the time, people questioned it. But what did he deliver? He delivered a Champions League. He delivered a Premier League title. He delivered a defensive solidity at Liverpool that hadn't been seen for decades. The man is a legend at that football club. But here's the reality of the situation, and I'm going to be brutally honest because I think Liverpool fans deserve honesty right now. Van Dijk is 34 years of age. He's got 1 year left on his contract, a contract that's reportedly paying him around £400,000 a week. Now, last season was not his best season. Liverpool finished fifth in the Premier League. They sacked Arne Slot after that title defence collapsed completely, and the whole squad, including Van Dijk, looked like a group of players who were run out of energy. run out of motivation. Something went badly wrong. Now Galatasaray are sniffing around, and look, there's a pattern here, isn't there? Mo Salah to Turkey potentially, Robbo already gone, and now the Wesley Sneijder connection. Sneijder, a Galatasaray legend, also Dutch, acting as some kind of intermediary to bring Van Dijk to Istanbul. It's not a bad story, is it? But from a Liverpool perspective, this is a crisis. You cannot afford to lose Van Dijk and Konate in the same summer. You just can't. That's your entire centre-back partnership gone. Andoni Iraola is the new manager, a manager I rate very highly, by the way, and he's been handed an absolute rebuild job. This is not just changing a few players. This feels like the end of a proper era at Liverpool.
And what would you say to Van Dijk himself if he's watching this right now? If Virgil van Dijk is sitting there listening to the That's Football podcast,
Virgil, stay. One more year. Give the Liverpool fans the goodbye they deserve. You didn't have the best season last year. I know that. You know that. Everyone knows that. But you're still good enough to play at the very top level. Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank said it perfectly. Give Liverpool supporters a proper farewell. Don't let your incredible legacy at that club end with a move to Turkey for free while the World Cup is still going on. Finish it properly, son. You owe it to yourself and you owe it to those fans.
You say to him, right, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The World Cup 2026 kicked off on June 11th, being hosted across 3 countries, USA, Canada, Mexico. Record 48 teams. Should be the greatest football tournament in history, right? But Jamie, honestly, has this been an absolute shambles before a ball has even been properly kicked?
Mark, I'll tell you something. I've been to World Cups as a player, and the chaos that normally surrounds a tournament, you know, the excitement, the last minute ticket scramble, a bit of logistical disorder, that's all part of it, and fans love it. That's what makes a World Cup a World Cup. But what's happened around this tournament is on a completely different level, and a lot of it, honestly, has nothing to do with football. You've got the US immigration situation creating absolute mayhem. You had the first Somali referee ever selected to officiate at a World Cup, a man who has a valid visa, who has earned his place on that stage through years of hard work, denied entry into America. FIFA eventually sorted it, but the damage was done. That's embarrassing. Genuinely embarrassing. Then you've got Iran's situation, a national football team that spent months not even knowing if they'd be allowed into the country. Their visas were only approved literally days before the tournament started. Some delegation members were still waiting for travel documents when the thing kicked off. The Iranian Federation had their official ticket allocation revoked just before the opening match. They said FIFA breached the principle of equal treatment for all nations. Can you imagine that? You qualify for the World Cup, you prepare for years, and then days before you're supposed to play, your tickets get taken away. And it's not just countries you might expect to have issues with the US. You've got Swiss striker Briel Mbolo, plays for the European nation, one of Europe's best strikers, nearly missing the tournament because of a legal case from years ago. He had to make an emergency visit to the US Embassy in Bern to get emergency clearance. A Switzerland international nearly barred from a World Cup. Then Iraq's team photographer was detained for over 10 hours and ultimately denied entry. Their striker, Ayman Hussein, spent 7 hours being questioned at Chicago's O'Hare Airport. 7 hours. The man is going to a football tournament, not trying to smuggle anything into the country. And then, and this really got me, Mark, former Italy captain Fabio Cannavaro, a World Cup winner, a Ballon d'Or winner, one of the greatest defenders ever to play the game. He was apparently searched like a suspected drug mule at a US airport. Fabio Cannavaro. The disrespect of it is genuinely unbelievable. So yeah, the World Cup has been chaotic, and not in the fun, exciting way that a World Cup should be chaotic. It's been chaotic in a way that reflects very badly on the tournament's organisation and frankly on the political climate surrounding the host nation.
And yet, Jamie, the football itself, because all of this madness is happening, but the games are being played, the drama is unfolding. Does the football save it for you?
The football always saves it, Mark. That's the genius of this sport. You can have every political row in the world happening around it, every controversy, every logistical nightmare, and then the whistle blows and suddenly none of that matters. Suddenly it's 11 versus 11 and the magic takes over. That's why we love it. That's why the whole world stops for the World Cup. And with 48 teams this time, new nations, new stories, new heroes, there's going to be moments in this tournament that people will be talking about for the rest of their lives. I genuinely believe that.
Jamie, final question, and this is a big one. Looking at everything we've talked about today, the insane transfer fees, the Van Dijk saga, and what it represents for Liverpool, the World Cup chaos, where do you think football is heading? Because sometimes I sit here and I think this sport is bigger than it's ever been, richer than it's ever been, and yet something feels off. Something feels like it's lost its soul a little bit. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong, Mark, and I think a lot of football fans feel that way, not just in England, but globally. The game has become so commercialised, so driven by money, that sometimes you lose sight of what it's actually supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about a kid growing up, dreaming of playing for his club, his country. It's supposed to be about a fan travelling across the world to watch the sport they love, not getting denied a visa or paying £500 for a ticket they can't afford. But, and this is crucial, the game itself is as good as it's ever been. The quality of football being played right now, the athleticism, the tactical sophistication, the global talent pool, it's extraordinary. And that's why, despite everything, despite the madness, despite the money, despite the politics, we keep coming back. We can't help ourselves. Because when you see a world-class goal, when you see a moment of genuine footballing genius, nothing else in the world matters. Nothing. Football is broken in some ways and it's beautiful in others, and I don't think that's ever going to change.
Jamie Carragher, everyone. Absolute class as always. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for today's episode of That's Football podcast. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, share this with a friend, and let us know in the comments. Do you think Van Dijk should stay or go? Is the World Cup already a disaster? Are transfer fees completely out of control? We read every single comment. We appreciate every single one of you. I'm Mark Goldbridge. This has been That's Football podcast, and we will see you in the next one. Come on!